Hey, how you doing there? Welcome back to the channel, Veracity Trigger. We are going to go through the dungeon of Neverreap, sort of revisited. Maybe I'll just completely redo the other one I have. The other one I have is a little bit too goofy. I think it's just a little too goofy, so I'm going to kind of go over this again, kind of slow things down a little bit, kind of try to give you some perspective as to what's, kind of good and what not good to do in this dungeon. I think kind of what happens, especially for tanks, people that like to play tank more so, is that there's a lot of dungeons to go through in here. There's 30 plus dungeons to try to almost remember all the time, in a sense. It's a lot of dungeons. So, a lot of people that are DPS or never play tank, they might not fully appreciate the fact that you have to try to remember all these dungeons as far as how to tank what monsters and where. For the most part, they're just putting out as much damage as they can to whatever monster. And, maybe they know what to stun or not to stun. But beyond that, the tank pretty much, the drill, face the enemy, get all the ads, this and that. The other thing, so let's go through this, kind of show you what to do. What you saw, pretty much the best way to do it is just pull everybody to a group. It's kind of the best way to do this. That cicada type monster there, that gigantic moth-like creature or whatever, is going to consistently do these conal AoEs. It's going to consistently do it over and over and over again, every so often. And I think it auto attacks, and then it goes into a conal AoE, and then so it almost never stops. So, like you see, it did a little swipe. There's another little swipe. It'll probably do another conal AoE. Yeah, so it does two, and then another AoE. So it's pretty much a very easy mechanic that you can see that'll happen over and over again, but you're not going to be able to stun it all the time. So just try to face it to the open area, and hopefully everybody picks on that first. It seems like when you go into these dungeons, especially for me, from my perspective, I go in these dungeons a lot, that it seems like most of the party members will just attack whatever they want to, even if I mark it with a number 1, like destroy this target first. I don't always get them to attack what I would like them to attack, so it's not easy all the time. It's never just that easy, to get everybody to do that. It seems like it kind of works with Soul Survivor though, because I have Soul Survivor macroed with a, attack this number 1. And it kind of works like that. It's kind of funny because this group that I'm going with, I don't think the DPS have even done this before, because it showed like a very long view time to start, and the healer, I'm not sure if they have either. I'm not totally sure. They basically tell me, later on to kind of slow it down, because I guess they're not geared high enough for this, or maybe they don't even really know. I'm not totally positive. But as far as taking this part and breaking this down, you could just grab, because I'm just going to call it like a little group, that is in the first part, and there's a little group in the middle, and a little group at the end. Now, if you want to take the whole thing, you can take them all to the end, and you'll see where I tank them at the end in this little peninsula corner. But if you want to just take these two groups, just kind of do it the way I did it. These five little monsters aren't that tough. These little monsters aren't all that hard. So, you can put them there. You just dodge the AoEs, and you can do Abyssal Drain on 5 monsters plus. Try not to do it on the smaller groups. Sometimes I accidentally do it. I've just changed all my buttons around, so my button layout's a little bit different. So muscle memory kicks in, and I press the button where it used to be, and yeah, that can mess you up. Because I'm trying out some different macros, some different setups and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing for my character. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I want to go through and kind of explain this a little bit more, because I see some other videos talking about the dungeon, and basically all it really goes into is the boss fights. They just tell you there's trash, kill the trash along the way. Don't really give you any kind of description as to, how or time frame or what to do or this or that. It's just kind of like, well, how do you do it? You come into these dungeons as a tank, and half the time you're starting them or you've done them a few times, and you don't really know what to do, but it seems like everybody else has already talked about this to the nth degree when you've got 2 or 3 new dungeons to digress and try to go through and try to figure out. So usually, you know, that's also part of the reason why a lot of people like to pick on tank or like to insult tank or some way. There's a lot that goes into it that people that just stick to DPSing have really no idea. They just have no idea. They just pick an easy job class, go with that. They might level up the tank to whatever they need to get it to through whatever means necessary, and then just drop playing tank forever. And it's kind of sad. I think things have changed a bit over time where, you know, the tank's not taking as much verbal damage from other people as it used to be, which is kind of better because now people are looking at, you know, what are the DPS doing or what are the healers doing or this and that in comparison, because I think there is some degree where that can be kind of a factor. But like where you saw me bring the cicada here in this little corner, this is the perfect place to tank it because that tornado isn't going to get, you know, and attack you. But if you were to take everything to that point, the cicada, you have to try to get him in as deep in that corner as you can so that he AoEs completely outside the map. You know, and then you can have your DPS be somewhat close. But if it's all range DPS, it wouldn't matter because they could just stand wherever and shoot it from any distance, really. So that's not too hard. This guy here, this flying water bird here, he disappears pretty quickly. So if you're going to use your basic attack, you know, your basic enmity combo, then go right into like a powered up Carbon Spit or powered up Soul Eater and just go that way. Typically what I found out too in a lot of cases is that, you know, if you are doing blood price, you know, and you want to do like a powered up Soul Eater as much as possible in blood price, or you want to do a powered up Soul Eater in blood weapon you get about 2, maybe 3 powered up Soul Eaters or Carbon Spit, and then you pretty much are done with the ability because each of them is only about 15 seconds long runtime, and you have about close to 3 seconds, 2.5 to 3 seconds for every attack. So that's 2.5, that'd be 5, and then 7.5. So 7.5 times 2 is 14 seconds. So you only get about 2 whole runs of a whole Carbon Spit combo, or I mean not Carbon Spit, but like Soul Eater combo with Carbon Spit. You could probably throw the Carbon Spit in there too, and try to get that kind of damage, but you can only really do it about 3 times. 2 to 3 times before you're just going back to your Delirium combo. So that's really kind of the point of that. I don't know why I jumped into that topic, but I just kind of wanted to mention that as far as like attacking a boss and like how much damage you can put into him. As far as being in grit or off grit, it really depends on the type of boss you're going to be fighting and how much damage you're going to be able to put into it before mechanics start to come into play. That's really the big kicker. You know, when are mechanics going to come into play? Am I going to be able to pull off attacks on him before then? You know, almost every boss is different to that point, that you actually have to play them a little while to kind of figure out and see. For this one to start, you probably want to do your enmity generating combo and then go right into like a powered up Carbon Spit or powered up Soul Eater. And then he's going to pretty much disappear and do the shade here. I don't know what this name is. It's a shade. Like I'd love to do this live, but the thing is, I really can't communicate too well and talk too well if I'm trying to do something like this live, to try to explain things a little bit better. See, that's also the reason you need to kill those ads before he comes down in his full form, because he breaks them, and it gave me like what, two or three vulnerability stacks. So you have to, the DPS has to kill those ads. Typically when I play this, I never kill any ads. I never have to worry about it. You can Soul Survivor that. You know, you can pop a Soul Survivor on one of them, but I don't focus on that. I just focus on the boss. DPS can kill the ads faster. By the time I'm clicking to target the ad and go over to attack it, a ranged DPS could have already just shot it and they would have wasted time. So that's why I don't even bother with this one. Doesn't seem to matter. I don't think you can Soul Survivor his shade, but you can Soul Survivor the ads. I think you can Soul Survivor him, this gigantic bird at the end. I think you can Soul Survivor this. Most of the bosses I can. I'm surprised with Hullbreaker hard mode you cannot Soul Survivor the the Malestorm guards that are guarding the place. But it seems to make sense in the fact that you're just going there to test them. Like, you don't kill them outright. So because you don't kill them, you don't get back some of their life force, which is kind of funny. It kind of goes along with the lore of when you went to Hullbreaker hard mode, and you know, you just go there to test them. You're not going there to kill them. So Soul Survivor would not work. But it hurts you as a Dark Knight tank to not be able to Soul Survivor half the things there. As far as this little part goes, just grab everything, pull them to the wizard, you know, make sure, you know, they're all lined up and surrounding Gandalf there in the middle, and, you know, just kill them off with everything, just Dark Passenger the whole thing. Oh, another thing is, like, I really will practically never Dark Arts a Dark Dance. I will practically never do that. That's pretty much the reason they put that in there. And I'll just tell you right now, the reason they put that in there was in case you ended up with so much MP that you didn't know what to do with it. And you have Carbon Spit down, you have Dark Passenger down, an Abyssal Drain isn't going to do you much because you're already topped off at hit points. You know, those things are down, you still have multiple enemies to fight. Then it might be a good idea to go Dark Arts your Dark Dance, just for that extra evasion possibility. But the reason I also don't do that is because it's just a 20% possibility of evading. It's just a possibility. It's like, you know, it's a gamble. It's kind of like a gamble spell. Like, I don't focus on gamble spells too much. The Dark Passenger powered up is a guaranteed 250 potency attack, you know, so that's why I do that. Here, the best strategy for this: get all the beasts together, get the tree together. A lot of the DPS love to kill the beast first, but the thing is, it's better as a group to kill the tree first because it knocks them out of the way. You can clear some visual range. The tree does tons of massive AoEs on everybody, sometimes casts it out on a party member somewhere else, and you don't have to worry about Final Sting unless the bee is low. So you see how Final Sting only comes when it's low. So as you're doing this, just kill the Trent first, and then work on a beast. That's pretty much the best, safest bet that I can say for that. But, you know, as far as doing this and doing Dark Knight tanking is concerned, I just see so many videos out there that they may show their run through it, they may show they're doing well in the run through it, but they don't really talk at all. They don't give an explanation, or if they do, it's well, I mean, a lot of it also isn't really about Dark Knight. It's either a paladin or warrior. And the thing is, I think the reason why Dark Knight isn't really shown too much is just the simple fact that this is a tough job. This is basically if you put paladin with the black mage finicky MP pool ability, where you have to gain back your MP or you have to deal damage with your MP, you know, because it's kind of like Dark Knight tanking is kind of like being in a little canoe and standing up suddenly. You have to make sure you don't tip the canoe. You have to make sure you don't tip the canoe. And it can happen, you know, like you can run out of MP here, even trying to get back, you know, like you can get to the verge of running out of MP. But if you know you're going to, you know you're going to lose it, just make sure the first priority that you do is to put your blood weapon back on. Make sure you have that back on because that gives you more attack. And it basically puts you into a tank stance mode, or if you have grit and your blood weapon, you're in tank stance mode. Because if without it, it just gives you extra defense and lowers your attack. But with the blood weapon on, it pretty much puts your attack back up to what it should be at. So that's just another suggestion. Here it's just a little group here, nothing too difficult. The next fight, I'll tell you right now, or I'll probably tell you when we get to it. Maybe that'll be easier because I'll timestamp this so you can get to certain segments of the fight. Maybe easier if that's really what you're going for. But this was like a first-time group coming in here, I believe. And yeah, I think that's what it was. Because I saw them like wandering around sometimes. I think maybe they were just looking at the atmosphere of the dungeon, which actually I think this is kind of a beautifully, not a beautifully, it's a beautiful looking dungeon. I think it's a very visually appeasing thing to see. So I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. This one's not too hard. This visual that you're seeing of the video here, it looks hard because I think they said they were undergeared. So I don't think they were putting in most of the damage. I almost think I was putting in most of the damage, most of the fight. I want to say that's the case, but I don't know. I felt like I was dealing most of the damage. Sorry, that's just the feeling that I had. It was weird because I came here, I did this, and I wanted to redo a couple of videos of mine and then probably go back and do some older videos and throw them out there too. And the next one I go into, the next dungeon, I did St. Waukkeon's because I want to redo that one. And that team, they were just killing it super fast. It was such a shocker. And it's weird when you're tanking, and when you tank most of the time, it's weird when you go into some dungeons and some teams are really, really sluggish or slow, or they want to take it at a very casual pace, and then some teams just want to race you through it. You're like, come on, come on, come on. You know, like, it's really weird because you have to practically sort of gauge, you know, what the team wants to do, in a sense. So more than half the time, they're going to be upset with you for something, for either going through it too fast or going through it too slow. But you're not going to really hear people comment and say, oh, could you please go a little bit slower? I might have gotten a comment like that once or something, but it's been such a long time. Most people will, if you're in with a decent team, that's very nice. They're going to just ask you beforehand, they're going to communicate with you beforehand, and it'll work like that. If you're in with a team that's not going to say anything, typically I say hi something from the start of the match, and I can kind of gauge what kind of party I have after that. You know, whether they're going to be nice or they're going to be salty, or, you know, the whole way. I prefer nice because it just makes things a little bit easier. And as far as me playing this game goes, I'm playing a lot of dungeons in this tank. The only thing that I've really been doing is doing tanking. I have leveled up the other things, but here, let's stop that for a second. Let's talk about this. He puts that ring out there. He's going to put totems down everywhere. Who's ever closest to that ring needs to move the totems. Hopefully it's not near you as a tank, and almost everything else he just kind of focuses on you. So hopefully he does that while the DPS and the healers are dinking around with moving around the totems, you know, because that red marker indicates who's going to get one. While they're moving it around, you pretty much can just go flat out blood weapon, take off grit, and just go to town with damage. And not worry about it. Not unless the totem's right in your face and a DPS or a healer is not close enough to helping move it. So basically, what ends up happening for this fight is you go full DPS. Everybody else is doing mechanics. I mean, unless the totem's in your face or there's two totems near your face, you need to move around, you know, do it as that. I would not suggest stacking totems too much. Try to spread them out to some degree, because if the battle goes too long, what's going to end up happening if you stacked all those totems in the center and he puts that big place marker in the center to revive whatever's inside of that, then you all have to go and move totems, and it might be too many for you to all move. So it might not be the greatest idea to stack them, but like for me as a tank, I have to basically just try to move one, you know, as much as I can, go back and try to hold the aggression of the monster. Or of the guy. That's the best thing I can do. He does one AoE conal once in a while, and you don't want that to hit your team. So that's the reason why you need to kind of stay here and do what you're doing. Beyond that, going back to tanking and stuff, yeah, it's kind of a challenge. It's kind of a challenge, like I mentioned. Like Dark Knight tanking is like being on a canoe and standing up suddenly, you know, because it's going to tip back and forth abruptly, and that's kind of what happens with your MP pool. You know, while you're tanking, you have to figure out when's a good time to do blood price, when's a good time to do blood weapon. Well, for the most part, for dungeons, unless you're going in with like a free company of sorts, or, you know, friends you know, or something to that degree, unless you're doing that, you want to stay in grit stance, and you want to stay in it probably a good amount of time, at least if you're fighting packs of monsters. For a boss like this, you could stay in grit for some attacks here and there, probably, you know, go through your enmity generating combo. If you really want to make it stick right away, do dark arts with a power slash, or just do your basic enmity generating combo series twice over, and then go into some attacks and then do your most powerful attacks with, like, you know, Carbon Spit or Soul Eater, and power that up with dark arts, and then drop, just drop your, drop your grit and go blood weapon from that point. But it also depends on the strength of the boss. Like this one here, because you can tell he's going to be casting a lot, he's going to be performing things that are possible mechanics. He can't auto attack me too much. He does more AoE attacks, which slow him down, and so that doesn't help him to attack me strong. I sort of skipped ahead a little bit apart. Sorry, I kind of skipped ahead a little bit apart because it was a very slow pull. This is kind of a long video. I don't want this to get to be like a 40-minute video or an hour-long video, because just the upload time alone on YouTube is abysmal. So yeah, it's abysmal. But the previous trash pack is almost identical to this, except for that instead of camels, they're 2 bees, or 2 or 3 bees, or something like that. It's like that, and then you just pull them all the way to the end. You take them there. The reason I'm not pulling this secondary pack all the way to the end is because this team was asking me to slow it down. So I slowed it down, and you can get that. And the camels aren't all that strong. Just stay out of their AoEs. Their AoEs are pretty powerful, I guess. They can do some damage. But yeah, as far as taking a boss goes, you have to kind of get a feel for some of the bosses and what they're doing. Typically, most bosses are going to do a small tank buster to start, and then they're going to do some kind of mechanic, and then like a bigger tank buster after that. So like if you wanted to mostly think about it like this, most of the time it's going to go like that. And for the most part, you're going to want to just like stay in grit until you figure out the first few mechanics of what they do. And then once you've seen the repeat of what's happening, then you can go blood weapon. But what I think they've done with the game, as far as the way Square's design is, I think they made blood weapon only really useful to just get back MP. It does help you do some more attacks, but for the most part, it's going to help you get back some MP. You can do an extra powerful attack, like if you wanted to stay in grit. It's kind of helping you to get back your MP, and then you go back grit. I think that's the way they initially designed it. But if you use your cooldowns correctly, if you use your defensive buff correctly, then you could probably stay off grit more so. You just have to basically wait for the big attack to happen, where you see they're charging up for a pretty powerful attack, and then you put on your defensive buff at that point while they're charging up for something like that. You could stay in grit. Most of the auto attacks, if you got decent armor, you shouldn't really need grit too much. Only really just to start the fight, and get it going. So yeah, one thing I wanted to tell you real quick is we were kind of goofing around a bit, and I do one of the poses. I think I do Yellow Ranger pose, and then I do Black Ranger pose with this other girl, and it's so hilarious how almost like on par we were with each other. It was almost psychic to a point where we both knew exactly when to hit that Power Ranger pose. It was so hilarious. I'll let you watch this for a second here, and then we'll go into the fight a little more. Look at that. Look at that. I had to slow this video down to see if it was almost like perfectly timed. And I think I'm a microsecond ahead, but that's still within the same second category. So we're pretty much right on par with our time. That was pretty cool, I think. And this is just random stuff too. So I was just like, wow. It was just crazy, like, how that happened. So for this fight here, he's going to randomly, like, throughout the tornadoes, like you saw before, you avoid the tornadoes, walk away from them. He's going to spawn different ads, all need to be killed. But as a tank, just focus on him. Just keep focusing on him, that way you constantly get the aggro on him. Even if you drop the grit, you constantly have aggro on him, he's not just wandering around. And you can soul survivor all the ads, you can soul survivor him too. So that's pretty much the point. He's going to go invisible at some point, or not invincible, but, or yeah, invincible I said invisible, and yeah, so he's going to go invincible, and once he goes invincible, you have to kill the ads. He's going to move to a point in the map. You can fall off this map and die, so don't go to the edge. And he might even push you off the edge with his invincibility. I'm not sure. I've never let him touch me. At least I don't remember if he has. Don't let him touch you. It's very bad. So you kill all the ads. Once he's done, wherever he stops, he's going to stay there, and he's going to pull off a pushback attack. So you have to look at the physics of the map to see where you want to get pushed back to. You always want to get pushed back to the center of the map. So you push back to the center of the map. See, it even does I think it did damage to that other atom. I think it did. Wasn't paying too much attention to it, but push you back. Try to make it push you back to the center map. And as this continues, he's just going to add a tornado every single phase. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about Dark Knight tanking a bit, go into it a little bit more so, give you a better description. Now, as far as whether to do Carbon Spit or go into Soul Eater, it really just comes down to how much MP you have. I mean, you could probably do the full combo set of a Dark Arts Soul Eater and then try to see if you can Dark Arts a Carbon Spit if you have enough MP for that, because you don't want to be too tremendously low. But for the most part, you're only going to really get maybe like a couple powerful attacks on him before he goes into another phase. So if you can, I would say try to power up a Carbon Spit more so because it's 50 more potency. So that could be a whole lot more damage, actually. 50 potency doesn't sound like it's a lot more damage, but comparatively, it should be a lot more damage. It could critical for a lot more than just basically a Soul Eater. So just kind of what I wanted to top, touch upon for that issue and stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go and do some of the other dungeons too. I'm going to remake the other one too, sort of revisited for that. If there's any other videos that I come across that I wasn't really too happy with as far as how I was able to do it, maybe there's a better way to do it, I might redo that. Might call it a revisited video. I've already done a couple of these. And yeah, so I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to try to do some of the earlier dungeons and see if I can do some of the earlier dungeons, but it's going to be really tough because they really weren't designed too well for Dark Knight Tank because there's just so many AoEs you need to avoid. People expect super large pulls in those earlier ones, and that's the reason why Square made these dungeons, to try to pull you away from the super large pulls, because they wanted you to kind of experience the dungeon in a sense, but they also didn't want to stress out the healer too much, and they didn't want to stress out the tank too much, because it really kind of does stress both of us out, because there's just so much you have to just keep doing over and over again super fast. And if I don't know, if you're something like a black mage or something that could spam AoE attacks over and over again, there's really not much to that, but there's a lot more to tanking it, and there's a lot more to making sure you're healing the right people or making sure you're in the right place to heal. I don't know, I guess maybe that could be a gripe of mine, or that could just be just the way I feel about it, but I think maybe that's why, Square Enix made the new dungeons mostly work with, smaller pulls, where you can only take smaller packs at a time. I think that's where Square Enix was going with that. So, I don't know, but in any case, yeah, that's the end of that. Next upload you'll see is Waukkeon's Arboretum, because I'm going to try to redo that one a little bit better. I think there's a better way to do it. And then we'll just go into some older dungeons beyond that. And yeah, so that's really all I got for you. Thanks for listening all the way through. I'll try to leave some annotations as to when to skip forward to if you just want to skip forward to the boss phase. That's really all you want. I'll leave that there. Or just watch the whole video. Leave me some likes and some comments and stuff like that if you like the video. And I will see you later. Take care.